Far away from Earth, beyond the bright stars and thick space clouds, there was a lonely moon that circled a quiet blue planet. On that moon, there was an old alien outpost. It had tall white towers, round glowing windows, and soft green lights that never turned off. But it had one problem. It only had one living being left. Her name was Zariah. She belonged to a race called the Telinari, known for their wisdom, long lifespans, and soft natural beauty. Her skin had a light shimmer, like moonlight touching water, and her long silver hair floated softly behind her as she walked. Her people had once been proud scientists, artists, and dreamers. Now, they were gone. 20 years ago, a cosmic storm had swept through their star system. It destroyed many ships and broke communication with the central worlds. Most of the Telinari were forced to leave or went silent. Zariah stayed behind, not by choice, but because her body was fragile. She had been recovering from stasis sickness when the last ship left without her. Since then, she had lived alone. Each day, Zariah followed the same quiet routine. She checked the power levels of the outpost, collected data from the planet below, and sat in the garden chamber where strange glowing plants still grew. The outpost was peaceful and everything worked, thanks to her careful hands and old training. But inside, her heart was growing colder. The Telinari were an emotional species. They didn't need physical closeness to feel love or joy. They connected through resonance, a deep feeling shared through energy, memory, and presence. Without others near, Zariah couldn't feel resonance anymore. It was like music that had stopped playing in her mind. Still, she kept the tradition alive. Every week, she entered the memory hall, a quiet dome filled with smooth crystal columns. These columns held the thoughts, dreams, and feelings of her people. When she touched one, she could hear soft voices, see bright visions, and feel warm emotions from long ago. Sometimes she smiled. Sometimes she cried. And sometimes she just stood there, silent and still, wondering if anyone in the galaxy still remembered the Telinari. One evening, as twin moons rose over the sky dome, Zariah sat near the communications panel. It was old and dusty, like a sleeping relic. She ran her fingers across the controls, out of habit more than hope. The stars beyond looked like they always did, cold, far, and silent. But then, the screen blinked. A signal. It was faint, broken, and old. A system update from the ancient distress beacon hidden under the surface. The beacon hadn't worked in years. Somehow, the recent solar winds had triggered it again. Zariah sat up straight. Her fingers danced over the console. It was broadcasting. To anyone. To everyone. A simple message. Life support stable. One survivor. Coordinates attached. Zariah leaned back in her chair. She looked up at the sky dome again. For the first time in many years, she whispered softly to herself, "Maybe someone will come." She didn't expect it. She knew how far she was from the nearest colony. But still, something stirred in her, a warm feeling, a hope. That night, she walked to the garden chamber again. The plants glowed a little brighter, as if they felt her mood. She sat near the large flower known as the Sayari blossom, a symbol of warmth and union in Telinari culture. She touched its petals and closed her eyes. Long ago, this place had been full of laughter, voices, and gentle harmony. Now it was quiet, but not completely empty. Zariah whispered again, "I will wait." She didn't know that across the stars, far on a human exploration vessel, someone had just received her signal. Zariah walked through the long, silver hallway of the outpost. The soft hum of the machines was the only sound she heard. Lights above her glowed faintly, following her steps like quiet stars. It had been many days since the beacon sent the message, but no one had answered. The silence of space continued. Still, Zariah did not give up. She believed in what her people once taught, that warmth, joy, and connection were not only given by others, but could also be protected inside. Inside the outpost, she cared for the last remaining systems that helped her survive. The air filter chambers, the heat cores, and the water garden all needed attention. Zariah's hands were gentle but steady. Though she looked delicate, she was strong in spirit. She had learned how to live without fear. In the center of the outpost was a room no one else had entered in decades. It was called the Heart Room. Inside, a soft sphere floated above a platform. It glowed with a pink and golden hue, like a sleeping flame. This was the Ember Core, the most important part of the outpost's ancient energy system. It did not just provide power. It held the emotional warmth and life energy of the Telenari who had once lived there. When Zariah stepped inside, the Ember Core reacted to her presence. The room became warmer. She placed her hand over the sphere and closed her eyes. From it, feelings began to flow. Soft laughter, memories of songs, the brush of gentle hands, the joy of deep conversations. The Ember Core preserved the feelings of togetherness. It was her last connection to a world that no longer existed. Zariah whispered, "Thank you for staying with me." Every time she visited the Heart Room, the Ember Core responded. It grew stronger when her emotions were clear. It dimmed when she grew too quiet or tired. In this way, she learned to express her heart even when there was no one else to hear it. But something strange had begun to happen. The Ember Core was changing. Its light was stronger now, and it pulsed gently, like it had sensed something coming. Zariah was curious. She placed both hands on the sphere and focused her thoughts. And then she felt it. A new presence. It wasn't Telenari. It was different. It felt like curiosity, like wonder, like searching. It didn't come from the past. It came from far away, outside the system. Zariah stepped back. Her chest felt tight, but not in fear. It was hope. "Someone has heard," she whispered. Later that day, she walked to the mirror room. This place held her people's personal memory crystals, small clear stones that stored private thoughts, feelings, and desires. Each Telenari had one. Hers rested in a soft silver holder shaped like a flower. Zariah held the crystal close. Her kind preserved joy and warmth through memory, even when alone. They believed that to remember beauty was to keep it alive. She touched the crystal to her forehead, and images filled her mind. She saw her mother smile, a field of singing flowers, and the first time she ever felt resonance with another. A tear fell from her eye, but she also smiled. She was still alive. The flames still burned. She left the mirror room and walked to the outside dome. Through the glass, stars filled the sky. One of them now held her attention, a small, moving light among the still ones. She didn't know it yet, but it was a human ship. Meanwhile, aboard the explorer ship Starseeker, Commander Kai Mercer sat in his pilot chair, staring at the screen. The signal had come days ago. At first, his team thought it was an old transmission, but something in the tone caught his heart. It was gentle, personal. Life support stable. One survivor. He couldn't stop thinking about it. Are we really going 20 light years for one signal? His co-pilot joked. Kai nodded. Wouldn't you want someone to come if it were you? No one argued with that. Kai had always believed there was more out there. He had visited quiet moons and forgotten planets, but something about this signal felt different. Not just technical, but alive, full of feeling. They changed course. Back on the moon, Zariah began preparing her home. She cleaned the garden paths, repaired broken doors, and relit the walkway stones leading to the landing pad. She didn't know who might come or when, but she wanted them to see beauty, not loneliness. She wore a traditional robe of her people, light blue, soft as air, with silver threads that shimmered when she moved. Her long hair was brushed and tied with a soft ribbon made from moon silk. She stood at the edge of the dome and looked up. Stars sparkled, and somewhere beyond them, a human heart was already on its way to meet hers. The stars moved slowly across the black sky as Zariah stood inside the viewing dome of her outpost. She had spent 20 long years in silence. No voice, no visitor, just machines and memories. But tonight, her heart beat faster. Something had changed. Far beyond her moon, in the deep cold of space, a human ship was coming closer. Zariah could not see the ship yet, but she felt it. The ember core had grown warmer. The memory crystals in the mirror room began to glow on their own, without her touch. Even the garden flowers opened at night, something they had never done before. She walked through the halls of the outpost, placing her hand gently on the walls as she moved. Her home was waking up. It could feel something approaching. And so could she. "Who are you?" she whispered, her voice soft and full of wonder. On the ship Starseeker, Commander Kai Mercer leaned over the ship's control panel. The signal was clear now. His crew had traced it back to a small moon near the edge of a forgotten system. "Almost there," said the pilot beside him. "We'll be entering orbit in 20 minutes." Kai nodded. He had been a space explorer for years, but this mission felt different. He wasn't chasing a treasure or a strange object. He was answering a call. The voice on the transmission was delicate, barely a whisper in the static. But it had touched something in him. It was full of longing and peace at the same time. "Do you think the message is real?" one crew member asked. Kai looked at the stars ahead and replied, "Even if it isn't, someone sent it. And that's enough for me." The Starseeker slowed as it approached the moon. From orbit, the outpost looked like a silver ring, quiet and clean. The surrounding land was covered in soft white dust, like snow without cold. Kai prepared to land. The ship touched down gently on the landing pad, and the engines powered down. The crew ran a full scan of the air, temperature, and surface. Everything was stable. "Commander, all readings are green," said the technician. "You're good to go." Kai took a deep breath, opened the ship's hatch, and stepped onto the moon. For a moment, there was silence. Then soft lights on the path ahead turned on, one by one, leading toward the outpost. Someone had turned them on for him. "She's expecting me," he whispered. Inside the outpost, Zariah watched the human through the dome's clear glass. He was tall, wearing a dark uniform with a silver badge on the chest. His face looked calm but curious. His eyes moved carefully, studying everything with quiet respect. She placed her hand on the door panel. With a gentle sound, the front gate opened. Kai looked up and saw her standing there. She was unlike anything he had ever seen. Tall and graceful, with long silver hair and smooth skin that shimmered under the soft lights. She wore a robe the color of the sky just before dawn. And her eyes held 20 years of waiting. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then, Zariah stepped forward and bowed her head slightly. "Welcome," she said in soft, musical English. "You came." Kay's voice was quiet. "I heard you. I had to." Zariah led him through the halls of the outpost. She explained things simply: the energy systems, the garden chamber, the heart room with its glowing ember core. Kai listened, amazed at the technology and beauty around him. But more than that, he was moved by how well she had cared for this place, alone, with no help, for so many years. As they walked, he noticed how the walls pulsed softly with light wherever she passed. It was as if the building itself was alive and happy to see her walking with someone new. They reached the garden chamber, where plants shimmered gently in the light of 2 moons. Kai knelt beside a strange flower. "It's warm," he said. Zariah smiled. "It responds to emotion." She touched the flower, and it began to glow. Kai looked at her, truly looked at her. There was no fear in her eyes, only calm curiosity. He felt something stir inside him, something new and deep. He didn't know her, but somehow it felt like he had always been meant to meet her. "Zariah," he said slowly, "why did you stay here?" She looked up at the stars through the garden dome and answered, "Because someone needed to remember, and because I still had hope." As the night passed, they sat together near the garden pond. Zariah shared her people's story, the rise and fall of the Telenari, their peaceful ways, and how they had once connected through emotion alone. No touch, no words, just feeling. But when they left, she said, I was forgotten. Kai looked at her gently. Not anymore. Zariah turned to him, her heart beating a little faster. You feel different, she said, like your emotions are strong. Clear, even now. I can feel your wonder. Kai smiled softly. Humans, we're full of feelings, sometimes too many. She laughed quietly, the sound like wind chimes. Zariah reached out and placed her hand near his. Not touching, just close. The air between them shimmered slightly. The ember core, deep in the outpost, pulsed brighter than ever before. She looked into his eyes. You're not Telenari, she whispered, but your heart speaks like one. Morning came quietly on the small moon. The soft rays of its twin suns filtered through the clear domes of the alien outpost, bathing everything in a pale golden light. The flowers in the garden chamber turned toward the brightness, blooming wide with fresh energy. Zariah stood near the ember core in the heart room. Its gentle glow had changed since Kai arrived. It was warmer now, alive with movement, and pulsing softly in time with her thoughts. The presence of another soul had brought it to life after 2 decades of silence. She placed her hand on the sphere again. Images appeared in her mind, warm colors, dancing lights, and the calm strength of the human who had come to her moon. Kai. He was not like the stories told about humans, loud, reckless, always moving. He was calm, curious, and kind. When he walked through the outpost, he moved with care, like he respected the space. When he spoke, he looked into her eyes as if he truly listened. Zariah whispered to the ember core, Is this what resonance feels like again? The core answered with a soft shimmer of gold. Elsewhere in the outpost, Kai stood in the garden chamber, surrounded by glowing plants. He was holding one of the data scrolls that Zariah had given him, written in her people's elegant language but translated through the ship's eye. It spoke of Telenari ways, emotional bonding, harmony with nature, and the power of shared memory. He had never heard of a culture like this. Even though he was a trained commander and explorer, Kai felt humbled by everything he had seen in just one day. Zariah had survived completely alone, not just physically, but emotionally. Her strength was not in force or weapons, but in patience, memory, and quiet hope. She's incredible, he said to himself. He reached out to a plant with shimmering leaves. As his fingers moved close, the plant leaned toward him slightly. It reacted to his presence, just like it did with Zariah. That afternoon, Zariah invited Kai to the mirror room. The tall crystal columns inside reflected light in soft colors. Pink, blue, and silver. Each one held a memory. Her people had used this room to remember their joys, struggles, and dreams. It was a sacred space. She handed Kai a small memory crystal. Place it near your forehead. Think of one memory that made your heart feel full. The crystal will respond. Kai nodded and gently pressed it to his skin. He thought of a moment long ago. His younger sister standing in a field of yellow flowers on earth, smiling at him. The sun behind her, her laughter, free and pure. The crystal glowed bright gold. Zariah smiled. It accepts your memory. She placed the crystal on a pedestal. Now, part of him would live forever in the mirror room. He looked at her with wonder. You never forgot your people, even after all this time. No, she said softly, because memory is how we keep love alive. Later, they sat beside the pond again. The sky above showed streaks of light from passing comets. The soft water in the pond rippled with gentle waves, reacting to their emotions. Zariah spoke quietly. The Telenari were once full of harmony. But in our final days, we became distant. We focused too much on knowledge and forgot how to feel. Kai looked at her, but you didn't forget. I almost did, she admitted. But then you came. Their eyes met. It wasn't dramatic or loud, just quiet understanding. Something between them was changing, like a fire that had been sleeping and was now waking slowly. She added, "Your thoughts, your feelings, they are not like ours. They burn stronger, brighter, sometimes even wild. But it's beautiful." Kai laughed softly. Humans are good at feeling everything, especially when we're not supposed to. They both smiled. That night, Zariah showed him the star map room. It was a round chamber with a high ceiling. When she activated it, stars lit up all around them like they were standing in the middle of the galaxy. She pointed at one light. "That is your Earth." Then another. "And that was my homeworld." Kai watched her closely. Her voice was calm, but there was a quiet sadness in it. "You missed them," he said. "Yes, but I'm no longer waiting for them. I think they are truly gone." Kai gently touched her shoulder, not to comfort, but to share silence. She turned to him and said, "And you? Why did you come?" He answered honestly, "I didn't know at first, but now I think maybe I was supposed to. Maybe I needed to find something I didn't even know I was looking for." Zariah nodded slowly. "And maybe so did I." As the starlights dimmed, they stood together in the soft glow of the room. The space between them was no longer cold. It felt warm, familiar, alive. Zariah took a step closer and held out her hand, not to touch, but to be near his, close enough for her energy to reach his. He did the same. In that quiet moment, without a single word, the Ember Core pulsed with light across the outpost. Every system responded. Every light flickered gently. The outpost had felt the connection. And so had they. Days passed quietly in the outpost. The presence of Kai had changed the rhythm of Zariah's world. The cold silence was replaced by soft conversation and shared moments. But more than words, something deeper was growing. A connection that was not spoken, but felt. Zariah sat beside the Ember Core once again. Its soft light pulsed in time with her heartbeat, stronger and brighter than before. She reached out with her mind, trying to share the warmth that Kai brought into her life. Across the room, Kai watched her with quiet fascination. He was learning to understand this strange but beautiful energy that seemed to flow between them. "You call it resonance," he said softly. "It's like emotions without words." Zariah nodded. "Yes, our people used it to share joy, pain, hope, even love. It is the true language of connection." Kai smiled. "I feel it now." That evening, they sat in the garden chamber. The glowing flowers surrounded them like soft stars. Zariah closed her eyes and reached out mentally. Kai focused his thoughts, opening his heart to her. For a moment, they shared memories. Zariah saw the fields of earth that Kai loved, the green grass, the blue sky, the laughter of children. Kai felt the calm and wisdom of the Telenari, their gentle patience and deep understanding of life. The bond grew stronger. She felt warmth spread through her body, a warmth not just of heat, but of belonging. Kai reached out and gently took her hand. The touch was light, almost a whisper, but the energy between them sparked brightly. Zariah opened her eyes and smiled. "You are teaching me new feelings," she said. "And you're showing me what hope truly means," Kai replied. Over the next days, Kai explored the outpost more deeply. He studied the ancient machines, the memory crystals, and the history stored in digital scrolls. He realized the Telenari had once been a peaceful species who valued connection over conflict. Zariah shared stories of her people's lost arts, how they used music not just for sound, but to share emotions. She taught Kai how to listen to the subtle rhythms of the outpost, how every pulse of light and sound carried meaning. Kai found himself growing calmer in this place. The pressures of command and the harshness of space seemed far away. Here, with Zariah, he could simply be himself. One afternoon, Zariah guided Kai to a small chamber filled with delicate instruments. She played a simple melody on a crystal harp. The notes floated gently in the air, and Kai felt a wave of peace wash over him. When she finished, Kai took her hand and said, "I want to learn this language." She smiled softly. "Then we will teach each other." Their days were filled with quiet discovery and gentle learning. They shared meals of simple foods grown in the outpost hydro gardens. They told stories of their worlds and hopes for the future. But most of all, they shared moments of silence, where words were not needed. One evening, as the moons rose high, Kai and Zariah stood on the landing pad. The stars above shone brightly. Kai looked at her and said, "You have kept this place alive, even when you were alone. That takes more courage than most can imagine." Zariah looked back at him, eyes shining. "You have come from far away to find me. That gives me hope." They stood close, the gentle light of the outpost surrounding them. In that moment, they both understood. They were no longer alone. Back inside the heart room, the ember core pulsed steadily. It held not just the memories of the past, but the promise of what was to come. The flame of connection burned brighter with each day. Zariah touched the core and whispered, "Together, we will keep the flame alive." Kai nodded. Together. Days passed peacefully in the outpost, but each one felt brighter and warmer than before. Zariah and Kai's bond had grown into something rare and beautiful, a new kind of union between two very different beings. It was not just friendship or curiosity. It was something deeper, a meeting of souls across the stars. Zariah watched the plants in the garden bloom more brightly each day. The light in the outpost shifted gently with their moods. It was as if the very building was alive and happy because of their connection. For the first time in years, the outpost felt like home. One morning, Zariah led Kai to the heart room. The ember core floated in the center, glowing with gold and pink light. It pulsed softly, matching the rhythm of their shared heartbeat. "This is the heart of our world," she said. "It holds the warmth and memory of my people. Now, it also holds ours." Kai reached out and placed his hand near hers, feeling the gentle heat of the core. He smiled. "It feels like hope." Zariah nodded. Hope and life. They spent their days exploring the outpost together. Kai showed Zariah the technology from Earth, simple machines that could help her care for the plants and repair old systems. Zariah taught Kai how to listen to the subtle signals in the air, how to understand the language of light and feeling. Each night, they sat under the twin moons, sharing stories and dreams. Kai told Zariah about Earth, its oceans, forests, and cities filled with millions of people. Zariah shared memories of her homeworld, the crystal towers, the singing winds, and the quiet lakes where her people once gathered. Their worlds were different, but their hearts found a common rhythm. One evening, as the stars shone bright, Zariah led Kai to the garden chamber. The flowers glowed softly in the moonlight. She held out her hand and invited him to join her in an ancient telinary ritual, a silent dance that celebrated connection and life. Kai took her hand gently. Together, they moved slowly, their steps matching the rhythm of the ember core. As they danced, a wave of warmth spread through the room. The flowers leaned toward them, and the walls pulsed with soft light. It was a moment of perfect harmony. When the dance ended, Kai looked into Zariah's eyes. "I never knew connection could feel like this," he said softly. "Neither did I," she replied. Their bond became stronger with each passing day. It was not just the warmth of their bodies, but the warmth of their spirits that intertwined. They discovered new ways to communicate, through shared memories, gentle thoughts, and silent understanding. Zariah no longer felt alone, and Kai found a home far from Earth, a place where he belonged. One morning, Kai stood on the landing pad and looked up at the sky. "I want to bring others here," he said, "not just to see the outpost, but to learn from you." Zariah smiled, her eyes shining with hope. "Then we will build a new beginning, together." The outpost, once a place of loneliness and silence, now pulsed with life and promise. The ember core shone brighter than ever, fueled by their shared energy and hope for the future. Zariah and Kai stood side by side, ready to face the galaxy as one. The stars glittered like scattered diamonds across the sky as Zariah and Kai stood together on the landing pad. The moon's soft light wrapped around them, warm and gentle. For the first time in many years, Zariah no longer felt the heavy weight of loneliness pressing on her heart. Kai looked out at the endless sky and then back at Zariah. "We have come a long way," he said softly. "From two very different worlds to this moment." Zariah smiled. "Yes, from silence to connection, from waiting to belonging." The outpost behind them glowed softly. Its lights flickered with life, powered not only by machines, but by the warmth that grew between these two souls. The ember core in the heart room pulsed steadily, holding the memories of the past and the promise of the future. Kai turned to Zariah. "My ship is ready to leave. I can take you with me, back to Earth. Or we can stay here, build something new." Zariah took a deep breath. The thought of leaving her home was difficult, but the thought of leaving Kai behind was harder still. She looked into his eyes and said, "Let us stay here, together. This place is our home now, and with you, it is full of life again." Kai nodded, a bright smile spreading across his face. Together, then. Days turned into weeks. Word from the human fleet slowly spread across the galaxy. The signal from the outpost, once silent for so long, now shone brightly in communications across many systems. Zariah and Kai worked side by side to repair the outpost and restore the gardens. Kai helped her build new systems to protect the moon from the harsh space storms. Zariah taught Kai the ancient arts of resonance and memory sharing, deepening their bond every day. Together, they created a place where human curiosity met alien wisdom. One quiet evening, Kai stood near the garden pond. He watched Zariah tend to the glowing flowers, her fingers moving gently across the petals. The air was filled with a soft glow, as if the plants themselves were singing. He felt peace. He felt hope. He felt home. Zariah turned to him and smiled softly. "Do you think others will come?" Kai took her hand and squeezed it gently. "They will. Because this story, our story, is one worth sharing." The outpost, once lost in the cold silence of space, had become a beacon of warmth and connection. It stood as proof that even in the darkest places, life could thrive. That hope could be found where no one expected it. And that two souls, though different in every way, could find a home together. As the twin moons rose high, Zariah and Kai looked up at the stars. Somewhere far away, Earth waited. But here, on this small moon at the edge of the galaxy, a new beginning was born. They were no longer alone. They were home. Together.